Hey guys, it's JT with Rev-Tac Firearm Instruction and our nonprofit Contact Front. I want to thank you guys for all your support of our nonprofit over the years, and even just watching these and sharing them helps get the word out about what these combat vets are going through that are struggling to find their purpose after the uniform. This is really important to understand that these guys most of the time reluctantly share their stories because they don't want to come across as weak or complainers. This is also important to understand that them sharing their story will potentially help another combat vet who feels like he's at his end of the rope and has nowhere else to go, and also feels very, very alone in this situation. I want to thank Fieldline Media for actually stepping up, feeling called to record these for us and do all of the editing. This is amazing. So thank you very much, Fieldline Media. I wanted to do is just sit down and do an update on life. This isn't a story of, a success story. It doesn't have to be anything like that, but I just want to hear what's going on. And I know we talk about this quite a bit, but I want to let other people know.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, as you've heard it kind of before from me, this is kind of feeling like peak life for me, like the best things have ever been. Really good things are happening in my life. I have an amazing woman by my side now, and just a lot of good things going for me. But I would just say it's not without a lot of effort, a lot of trying. I still deal with a lot of stuff from my time in service on a day-to-day. Anxieties, I would say. Some depression, not as much as it used to be. I still have stuff like nightmares that affect me. I'm still in a lot of chronic pain. But, this is kind of something I had to work at every day. I put a lot of effort forth into, not getting into my own mind, I would say, type of idea. I like to talk about how if I'm feeling things, if I'm feeling emotion, I want to be present, feel those emotions, understand why I'm feeling it, and then kind of, allowing it to pass. I don't want to be hung up on, anger or sadness, stuff like that. I do have a lot of things in life that would justify me to just sit and sulk in those kind of emotions. But to live the best life I can, I have to, be very cognizant of that, I would say.
So let's go back a little bit. I have seen a ton of progression in the last few years that we've been spending together. And when I talk about progression, I mean just the way you dealt with things from then to now. And then the other part of this that I've seen is you being constantly kicked. I mean, you are trying the best you can to keep this positive attitude. I mean, you come to work every day and you're trying, right? Mm-hmm. And I see that. Yeah. And I see you always taking care of other people and doing the things that other people don't want to do. And then all of a sudden something happens, right? And right. So generally speaking, this is a lot of your physical limitations, kicking your ass, and then what else?
It's kind of, we've talked about it before, but that's one major adjustment I think that veterans go through, or, men, women, anybody kind of goes through in life. I've kind of noticed this theme where we have these expectations for our lives and these ideas, this plan maybe of how things are going to go. Mm-hmm. And, I personally say, like, you need to have a plan A, B, C, D, because it's going to end up being plan G, you know mm-hmm. what I mean? And so allowing yourself to understand where you are in life as opposed to where you want to be, trying to find a new purpose for yourself as opposed to what you might have thought it was going to be, like for myself, My experience with the VA has been kind of tough. When I first came home, I had some things pushed through and rated correctly at the appropriate rates they should have been. And then kind of as they progressed to add more of my symptoms and more of my things that I, I'm dealing with from overseas, they kind of have dropped my ratings down to basically keep me at where they want me. They don't want to have to pay me more type of idea. When I first came home, I had different feelings about disability and ratings and stuff like that. For one, and we'll kind of elaborate into this culture a little bit more, but I was being told things didn't change, and so I believed that. Like we talked about, I was a hard charger. I was a young guy, and so I didn't want to think things had changed. And so that was something that I think was really difficult for me because things had changed. I didn't know that. And the people who should have been helping me and guiding me through these changes were also telling me things hadn't changed.
What do you mean as far as change goes?
I would say like PTSD type symptoms, back pain symptoms, body pain symptoms, stuff like that. Respiratory type ideas from burn pits, different things like that. And like I said, once I started experiencing these changes myself, the physical changes and stuff, I really just wanted to be better. I just wanted health care. I wanted them to kind of address these things. And it was almost always talked about in like a hushed nature where, symptoms that I've dealt with for, let's say, traumatic brain injuries, they would write off as like acid reflux and stuff like that. And so it was 10 years of this kind of runaround where they just deny and deny and deny. I talk about this a little bit before, but I've had them tell me personally in their own words in the VA and in the rating process that this is a system meant to deny, and they have you right where they want you. And so hearing things like that are super frustrating, especially when you start to deal with that yourself.
I mean, I am seeing that firsthand as well in the system where if you even have a good day and you mention it, then you're healed and they've done their job, and that's wild. When you go in and you say, hey, listen, my back is at a 4 today. Well, the last time you were here it was a 10, so then you must be better, and or whatever the thing is, we're really healing you.
Yeah, for sure. Or just like, for instance, with my back, where they initially rated it what it probably should have been rated at pretty high. And then as they slowly started to add more of my things I'm dealing with from my time in service, they dropped my back lower and lower and lower to just kind of make room and accommodate these other symptoms that they're adding in. I don't know if it's like I'm assuming it's like a money issue where they just don't want to put forth the funding into looking after our veterans. I guess it goes up to the top where they don't want to delegate these funds, as we know, and we don't have to discuss it on here, but that money's going someplace and it's not to the veterans.
Yeah. And it needs to be sorted out for sure. I think there's a problem here. The other big problem that I see, and as we work through contact front a lot, you'll talk to guys who who have stories, and maybe it's mostly anecdotal, I don't know, but you hear about these people who were in basic training and they twisted their ankle or whatever, and they're at 100%, or whatever that is, and I'm just using a weird example, but you've got guys who have worked and done a lot of work for the military, and then they're having to prove that they're not sleeping and IBS and all the things.
For sure.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like they're trying to fatigue the veteran from getting help. And so a lot of nonsensical type ideas where, for instance, with my back being messed up, it's getting to the point of extreme pain where I can't stand and walk and stuff on some of the really bad days. And, they want you to see 4 different doctors and do physical therapy and things like that before getting me in for an MRI. And I understand some of that is the medical, field and how it works and how it processes, but it just seems contradictory to get me in and try to have me doing physical therapy and stuff that could damage my back before they'll allow me to get a scan to see what my back's kind of doing.
Yeah.
And even to the point where the physical therapist is uncomfortable having me in there and having me do things, to where last time I was in there, he was nervous about even having me do anything until I could get my scan. But they wanted me to complete multiple sessions of physical therapy to get a scan, which even the physical therapist wasn't in agreement with. And so stuff like that.
So without making it an attack on the actual staff at the VA, there's a policy, there's something wrong, right?
We've had new medical providers come in from the non-VA side to the VA, and I can instantly see an increase of them trying to provide me care. Like if I get a new doctor that comes from the civilian side, they're immediately ordering me a bunch of scans. They're getting me the help and the, medical aid I need. And sometimes within 6 months, those doctors end up leaving the VA because they're being told, you can't provide these services. You can't look after these veterans like that.
Yeah, you can't
crazy.
actually do what they need.
And I've talked to some of these medical professionals where they're like, I can't do that. I can't, justify being here and having to fall in line and not provide the care that these guys need.
Right. Yeah, it's ideally, I think the neatest thing that could happen is that, care in the community, but I think it should just be that all the time, where you just go to the doctor that takes care of you and is willing to listen to what needs you actually have without the skepticism, right?
For sure. Yeah, and skepticism is a great word. I don't know if it's like that. I used to feel like it was major focus on like malingering, and they thought everybody in there was a malingerer and lying on kind of what they were going through.
So what I'm seeing right now, just with my experience, and I'm sure you can touch on this too, is that the amount of appointments that they want me to attend that I don't have time for as a guy who works, and same, for you, every time you have to leave for 3 hours, 3 times a week, that's 10 hours of money that you're leaving on the table, and it's amazing the load that they put on you. And then the other big complaint that I have right now is, yes, I know it's getting better, but they send me a text saying, hey, you have an appointment today. They don't tell you where, they tell you a time, but they've scheduled you these appointments all over. I mean,
yeah, definitely. That's a lot of what I've experienced as well. For one, like you were talking about, I don't know if it's their system or what, but I might, like you said, I might have 8 appointments in a week, which is just insanity.
Right.
For one, they're trying to get me in there. So say if I go be seen about my back, I might have to see 4 different medical providers who just literally refer me, pass the buck on to the next one. And so I don't know if that's like an attempt to break the veteran, because they know that you can't make all them appointments. They know you can't meet all these appointments.
Right.
It's definitely disheartening when you get in there and you tell your whole symptom and story of what's kind of going on, and they're just like, well, not much I can do about it. You have to go see this person, and then you go see that person, and they're like, no, you actually have to go an hour away in Sioux Falls and see this person and stuff like that. So
the other part of this is that I know you want your back to feel better. I want all of my ailments to feel better also, but it's almost like you're scared to say if you're improving. It's almost scary because, for instance, I'll give you a good example. I went in and just did a pulmonary thing for my chest, because my complaint is that my chest is tight. Like I'm not getting enough air, and go do pulmonary stuff, and I'm above average. Like I'm a healthy dude. And so they're like, nope, you must be faking, instead of what's going on? I have these other claims. Is it related to that? Give me an answer. But instead they're just like, no, your lungs are functioning. You're set.
We're in better physical shape than I would say maybe other people in society. And so that's almost like a dismissal right there when you walk in and, you're functioning, I guess how I would say it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, yeah, like you said, I don't know. It's hard to describe, where I'm a very low percentage of who I was, what I used to operate at. I was told at 25 years old I need to fuse my back type of idea. And so I'm living this new life at a fraction of what I could have been and what I, could have been able to achieve, to the point now where it's really affecting me financially and stuff like that. And so it's hard because I do need the comp and pen side now to make up the difference, but I'm not getting that because, like you said, things are kind of being dismissed. And I wanted to kind of touch on it too, where it's like the idea of, and this has been a lot of my experience with the VA, but I'll go in there and I might have a laundry list of symptoms, which makes sense because I hurt my back overseas. I've been near explosions, blast radiuses, where the VA themselves have denied or diagnosed me with multiple TBIs and stuff like that. But as I read off all these things, kind of when I get to the end of the list, it's almost like they just clap their hands and they go, all right, well, is there anything else before we let you go? And it's like none of it was addressed. Or they might say, well, we're just going to put you on a pill for the acid reflux. And then it's like all the other symptoms are kind of just thrown to the wayside. And so very, very tough for the veteran. I think they're very good at breaking the spirit of a lot of guys. I know myself, like I said, I've been fighting this battle for almost 15 years now against them. And I guess I just have enough, I don't know what you'd call it, tenacity driving me to where they're not going to beat me type of idea. They have in the past where I've had to just take 6 months off and kind of suffer in silence and not even go bother with them because almost the lack of care creates such turmoil too in your life. But I know that a lot of veterans, when they get put through this struggle and stuff like that, they just turn away and say, F the VA. And so as we've seen with older veterans, Vietnam vets and stuff like that, they just give up and don't even ever attempt it. And so that's been on my mind a lot, to where it's like, if you just let them do that, that's how people, with these diagnoses can't work. And that's why we see homeless veterans and stuff like that. And we act like we don't know how to solve this problem. But if somebody physically can't work and provide a living for themselves, and then the VA disability comp and pen side is going to deny them any money or any funding to help them live a normal life.
Yeah, I understand the balancing act, and I'm sure you do too, because there's a point where if everything is paid for in your life and you just sit on the couch and you get fat and lazy and you don't have purpose anyways, you're not going to mentally feel good, right? And so there still has to be this balance of guys who are taken care of, but they also have some purpose, right? They have to. Men need a purpose, and maybe women do too. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but I know that you need a purpose, and I need a purpose, and so the idea that, let's just say that they said, hey, we're going to pay you $100,000 a year, but you can't do anything. Well, that's okay. I mean, that at least takes care of your family, but that doesn't necessarily take care of your mental needs, right?
For sure.
And so we got to find the balance in that. But the first step is to just at least get guys, I think, financially compensated. If you can't work a normal 40, 50 hours a week, then it should almost be a, hey, 100% and we'll sort it out later, type of deal. Get guys what they need and then go from there.
It's almost like, kind of reminds me of the idea, and you could probably speak on this, I know you probably heard of it, but like how they say that 100 guilty people should go free in the court system before one innocent person is locked away, type of idea. And it's almost viewed like that, where it's like, say we do have malingering and maybe that is an issue. I don't see it personally. I don't see like why that could be such a problem that they're going to just full out assault all veterans and say all of you guys are lying for maybe a few that are lying.
Yeah.
And like you said, the ones who kind of maybe are like that, who were injured early in their military career and kicked out in 2 years or whatever, they're completely taken care of immediately. But it's the veterans who've seen heavy combat and stuff who are struggling. And I'm not talking about myself, it's Vietnam era guys and all these other guys. And so I feel like we should err more on the side of making sure everybody's taken care of, even if a few malingers get through, as opposed to just denying everybody. You have to literally fight until you die to get your services.
It's been rough.
And it's, probably feel the same way you do, but it's scary to me as we continue to go into whatever you want to call it, new conflicts, new wars, and many, many young soldiers being sent off when I don't feel like we're taking care of what we have to take care of right now.